talk to me about rooftop solar, because this is one that I had a long conversation yesterday with somebody who was, again, his daughter, I believe, got rooftop solar, and they were really not happy with rooftop solar, and by consequence, Idaho Power. Now, mind you, Idaho Power did not sell them rooftop solar, nor did Idaho Power give them any information that they was not accurate. This customer, rooftop solar customer, got information from a salesman, had a projected payoff, had a projected idea of what Idaho Power, what the rate would be for Idaho Power. Because of course they're like, and I've heard the pitch too. They're like, hey, Idaho Power increased their rate by, oh, dude, it's going to be a glut of sales, because like Idaho Power increased the rate by 10% or 13% last year. This is the chart for what it's going to be in like 20 years. People are like, oh my gosh, let's buy rooftop solar. Now, mind you, that salesman is not saying, yeah, there's a 13% global increase this year, but there was like a 10% decrease last year. So it's like this oscillating system. They're not articulating.
Well, we talked about this last time. It's 1.2% on average every year for the last 10 years. That's not talked about.
Right. So
in these sales. Or I shouldn't say it's not. Sometimes it's not, right? I don't know the salesperson.
If I'm an unscrupulous salesman, I focus only on the thing that makes my sale better, which is if you look at this 12-month time frame, you're going to get an exponential increase that's going to be, you don't look at like, okay, over 15 years, it's only been 1.5%. So like, don't worry about it. So you have people that are getting taken by that. Now, part of that equation is how much Idaho Power is going to be increasing per year, right? Where they're like, hey, 10, 13, whatever percent. Part of it is also the payback that they're going to get. So like, hey, let's put a huge system on. So like, I know you only use like, I don't know, whatever the kilowatt hours might be, like 10 kilowatt hours, or what's an average? It's like 500, 600, 7. Okay. So you only use 700 kilowatt hours per day.
Kilowatt hours is probably like 1,000. Sorry.
Okay, great. 1,000 kilowatt hours per day on an average home. They're like, but we're going to put a 1,500. First off, you'll get a rebate. Yep. So like, this is what the salesperson says, right? You'll get a rebate. Which is
going away, by the way, but yes.
Right. Okay. So get it now while you can. The point is you get this $1,500, or excuse me, you get a rebate. Great. But let's put 50% more solar capacity on your roof than you actually need, because what we'll do is we'll sell that back to how much are you paying right now? It's like they'll pay you back at 12 cents a kilowatt hour, because that's what they're buying it from somebody else or whatever it might be. But what actually happens is like, yeah, customers may be paying, residential, like retail power customers may be paying 12 cents a kilowatt hour at some time. But that's not what Idaho Power is buying power for at wholesale, which is right. So I, as the unscrupulous salesperson, throw out all these statistics, all these numbers. I have my graphs, I have my charts, I'm using the right colored pens. I'm like smiling real nice. And the customer purchases it. And then the reality of the market and rooftop solar comes to bear. So explain this, if you could, hit me with like what people really should be thinking about with rooftop solar. Not saying they should or shouldn't do it, but what the real numbers are and why the reimbursement is low, why you're not increasing your rates at an aggressive rate like people are saying, all of this.
Well, let's talk about the case first. And so the case related to rooftop solar,
is this case, like a public utility case? Okay.
Yeah. It was not, can people put solar on their roof? That was not an issue in the case. It was not, can they offset their own use with rooftop solar? It was that last piece that you mentioned. When there are exports to the grid, how much should, not Idaho Power customers pay for that excess energy? Because it's actually the customers through the power cost mechanism that pay for those costs 100%.
Okay, so if I may just real fast. What you're saying is when people talk about getting reimbursed for excess power, they're not getting reimbursed by Idaho Power. They're getting reimbursed by the other people that are purchasing power from Idaho Power. That money, they pay for that money and it just flows through Idaho Power.
It's through Idaho Power, but it's through a mechanism called the PCA, and customers pay 100% of that. We don't make money. We don't lose money. It's a complete pass through.
Gotcha.
So if there's a subsidy, for example, in rooftop solar, it's paid for by non-rooftop solar customers.
So if you have solar that you have an excess of solar that you're putting back onto the grid, and I do not. Through the PCA, I'm purchasing that power from you through Idaho Power. Idaho Power does not make money in this exchange.
Correct.
I buy it at cost.
Yep.
So if you, the solar provider, right, the solar producer at, the guy down the street who has solar, if you're getting 12 cents a kilowatt hour for your
that's
solar,
paid for by customers.
that's
through the
paid
PCA.
for, right. Okay, keep going.
And it's a credit. It's not a payment, but in any event.
Sure.
So the question in this case was, what should the value of that export be? For years, it's been around 11, 12%.
Sure.
Or excuse me, 11, 12 kilowatt dollars per kilowatt.
Okay. Cents per kilowatt?
Cents per kilowatt. Right. You get dollars and megawatt mixed up, but yes.
Right. So that's like $120 per megawatt.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great.
Yep. And so the market throughout the years that we've seen, if you were to go to the market and buy and sell this energy, it was about 2 cents.
Okay.
So there was a pretty significant difference there.
So if I, again, just breaking it down step by step, if I as a customer, if I'm trying to draw power, Idaho Power would be buying that power at 2 cents a kilowatt and then transmitting it to me at some rate. But through the PCA, if you, the dude down the street with solar, you're getting paid 12 cents a kilowatt by me, the customer who's trying to buy that power. But if that's not the actual market price, because the actual market price is like, no, we could get that for 2 cents, but we have to force these customers to buy it for 12 cents from the person with Rooftop solar.
Yeah, a value of 12 cents. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's a subsidy. And the question, Idaho Power doesn't decide whether that subsidy should exist or not exist on that export rate. What Idaho Power does is provides the math to show this is what the market was and this is what we actually paid. It's 5 times above market, so you're doing a subsidy at that point. And because of the subsidy, non-rooftop users are paying for that through the PCA. Mm-hmm. So commission, kind of you decide whether you think you want to do this subsidy or not. Here's the numbers. What the commission came back and said is it's a subsidy. We're not going to go down to the actual market rate it's a market rate through what's called the Western Energy Imbalance Market. We're not going to do that. We're going to go a little bit above, knowing that there's still a little bit of a subsidy, but we don't want people who've put solar on their roof to be impacted as much. So they, it's like a 4 cent instead of a 2 cent, but it's a lot lower than the 12 cents. Now, what the commission has said the last 3 or 4 years is, hey, everybody in the rooftop world, they signaled that they are probably going to do that. It's a subsidy, but the problem is an installer may or may not tell their customers that, hey, be careful because this rate could decrease. And so what's happened over time is it's decreased this last couple of years, and folks have got upset about that. What's interesting is the first year this change was in place, market prices were really high. So it actually benefited rooftop solar users because of the Ukraine war, natural gas prices. What you could buy energy on the market was inflated. So we didn't hear a ton then because that price that was given back was pretty high. We only started hearing it now because market prices have gone down, stabilized back to normal, and you're back to that on average 2 to 3 cents versus that 12 cents.
And man, let's be clear. You, Idaho Power, are hearing about this. You have zero control over this. You don't make a profit from this. You're not making the rules on this. You are merely executing what the Public Utility Commission tells you to do.
We were told to do a study for the Public Utilities Commission, and we put forward that study. So I wouldn't say we don't have control, because our job really is to show the facts of the system, the costs, how they're reimbursed, all the different things we talked about earlier. So we put that forward, but then yet correct. We do not decide what that credit should be. Nor should we decide whether there should be a subsidy or not. You could argue it should be the PUC that decides, or you could argue that it's the legislature that should decide whether there's a subsidy or not related to rooftop solar.
Right.
That's not our job. Our job is to show the math.
Right. And when I'm saying control, I'm not saying you're not participating in that.
Yeah.
PUC's like, hey.
We don't make the decision.
Right. It's like, Adam, go get this study. You're like, okay, I'll get here are the numbers. Like, here's the study. Like, and guys, like, you figure it out. And you figure it out either as in the PUC or like, hey, legislature, like, these are the numbers, right? Like, what do you go to, like the Office of Performance Evaluations or something? And you're like, hey guys, like, here are the numbers. And they're like, great. And then they take the study and they pass it on to the legislature. It's like, you guys, listen, this is a you guys problem.
Yep.
This is not like an us problem, because we're just going to do whatever you guys want us to do. And you eat popcorn and watch them argue.
Well, and I'll even take it a step further. There is an argument that it should be higher than the 2 or 3 cents that we hear a lot. And the argument is that look, more rooftop solar is good for the environment. It's better than fossil fuels. There's a societal cost that exists down the road by burning fossil fuels versus, using solar. You should bake that into your cost because it's going to be a real cost 30 years from now from climate change and some of those types of things. Again, we're not really saying one way or the other whether there's societal costs. We just know that that's not a cost that's allowed in the overall math of whether there's a subsidy or not. Different parties can argue that with the commission. The commission will decide whether they want to put societal costs in there or not and say there's more of a benefit than what's shown here than what's on the market because of the costs that you're not going to have to pay down the road 30 years from now because of climate change. But generally, our commission hasn't gone that route.